Hi all. Today let's explore Single Spa Layout, which is an add-on plugin that is available in the Single Spa. The Single Spa Layout engine provides a top-level router API, which makes it considerably easier to create the top-level routes to arrange them in the DOM in a sequential manner. We can create applications as well. And also we will be able to create loading UIs that can be used when the application is getting loaded. And along with that, we will be able to create page not found UI that happens when the user navigates to a route which is not defined in our single spa application. Also, we will be able to handle the errors which occurs in our applications and generate UI which can be shown when this particular error happens. So now let's see how we can add the single spa layout to our single spa application. So in case we are creating a new application from the scratch, we can make use of the create single spa CLI. So it will ask for the new project. So I am giving some test project, and initially I will be creating only the single spa root configuration, because the single spa layout engine that we are exploring today, that needs to be installed only in the single spa root configuration. It need not be installed in any of the other applications. So I am going to create the single spa root, selecting npm as the package manager. I am not using TypeScript. Now this is the question that is relevant to the single spa layout engine. So here we need to select Y, which is the default, so that our single spa project root will contain the single spa layout engine. Now we can provide any organization name. Once our application has been created, if you go to the package.json, you can see that the single spa layout has been added as a dependency in our package.json. Similarly, some templated code has been generated, and three important files which we need to take into consideration with regards to the single spa layout is the app root config, index.ejs that is converted to the index.html, and the microfrontend layout HTML. Single spa layout supports two formats. Either we can define the roots in the HTML format or in the JSON format. So by default, they support the HTML format. So here the create single spa CLI, it generated a default root. This is the syntax of that root. So since it is HTML, there is a single spa router tag. Within that, we have this main, and here they have defined a default root and they have defined an application. So we will go through each of this syntax describing what each of these tags mean. So once we have created this layout.html, they are importing this HTML and they are constructing the roots by calling the construct roots utility that is from the single spa layout. And after that, once the root is generated, they are making use of the construct applications utility, and there we pass the roots and we are in essence loading the applications. Once the applications are created, we are passing it to the construct layout engine, and it will generate the layout engine and we are activating it so that our root config is set up. I have gone ahead and added three Angular applications. We will now go ahead and add these three Angular applications within our index.ejs, where we will be loading these applications and then we will be defining the roots for them in the microfrontend layout.html. Now I have gone ahead and added the configuration for all the three new Angular applications in the root config. So in the index.ejs file, in the system.js import map, what I have done is I have added the entries for each of our three Angular applications. So one application, that is the nav, that will contain the nav options in which I will be able to select either a home or the about tab. So that Angular application I have built and I am serving it using HTTP server on the port 9001. Similarly, I have the home application that is served in 9002 and the about application that is served in 9003. And also I have enabled the zone.js within the index.ejs. Since we are making use of the Angular application, it requires zone to run. These are the changes that are made in index.ejs. Now, if you go to the microfrontend layout, which is the place where we are defining our single spa layout, the main starting point of a single spa layout is the single spa router tag. This tag basically defines the layout of our application. So here initially I have defined a nav. Within that I am defining an application. So this is one kind of tag that is supported by the single spa layout. That is, this application will always be present in our view irrespective of the route in which we are present. The app nav, that is the name which we have given for the our navbar application, that will be always visible, and such applications which need to be available throughout all the routes we can just define using the application tag, and it has a property or attribute called name where we can define the name which we gave in the system.js import. After that I have created a main section. Within this we have defined two routes. One is the route home. The path attribute defines the name of the route, and within that we can say which application needs to be loaded when this particular route is activated. So here again the syntax is similar to what we saw earlier. We provide the name, so that is our home app, and when we navigate to the path about, we will be loading the application about. And here you can see a attribute mode which I have given in the single spa router. So here I have given hash, so it means basically I am using the hash location strategy for the routing. The options are hash or history. So here I have given the hash. In the app route configuration I have not made any changes. Now let's run our application and see. So this is our application. Now you can see that initially I have given the localhost 9000. Since that particular route has not been defined in our route layout, what happens is that none of the applications is loaded except for the navbar application. Since this is always loaded, you can see that this is the navbar application and it is present. Now when we click on the home tab, you can see that our home application has been loaded since the route has changed to home. Similarly, when we go to the about, we will be able to see our about application. So this is the basic functionality of how we can load the single spa applications using single spa layout. Now suppose we already had an existing single spa application and now we needed to add the single spa layout manually to this project. So how we can do that is, first we need to install the dependency within the package. Once we have done that, here in the index.html we can add this code. So this is basically the code which we saw earlier in our microfrontend layout.html, which consists of the single spa router along with all the application and the route information. You can see that this is actually wrapped in a template so that this template won't be immediately rendered in the browser, but we are providing an ID here which we will be making use in order to query that particular template within our app.root config.js. I am going to comment out the microfrontend layout and I am going to query that particular ID which we gave earlier in our index.ejs. So I get hold of the template and that particular template I am passing to the construct roots, which will again follow the same path which we saw earlier. Now, if we see our application is again working as expected, when we click the home, we are able to navigate to the home application. And when we click about, we are about to move to the about application. So this is how we will be able to manually add the single spa layout to our application. Previously, I had mentioned that single spa layout also provides another format called the JSON format, in which we will be able to provide the same information which we saw here, that is provided in the HTML. That same information we will be able to provide in as a JSON as well. So this is one JSON configuration I have created here. So if you closely look at this, you will be able to see a key called mode here, which has the value hash, which is exactly similar to the key which we provided here. Now we need to define the application app navbar. So the equivalent of that will be, we have a key called roots, which is basically an array. We will be able to provide either type of application or type of root. So the first case, we have an application app now. So we give the type as application and the name as app-nav. And the next thing we have is the root home and the application home. So the next entry within the roots array, we have of type root, the path is home, and within that we have another roots array in which we give the application and the name of the application. Also, we have provided another key called default, which has the value false. So we will look into this key a bit later. Similarly, we have added the details of the about application, which is exactly similar other than the values. What we can do is we can take this configuration and we will comment out the construct roots, and we will provide the configuration as a argument to the construct roots. So here previously we were providing the HTML layout. Now we are passing the JSON as the parameter. Now when we run our application, you can see that the application is working as previously. The advantage of using the JSON format is that we can keep this JSON in a separate location, and when we make changes to that JSON, we need not rebuild our applications, and we will be able to control the layout of our application remotely. Now let's explore some other features that is provided by the single spa layout. One such feature is the page not found or 404 error. So in order to handle that, we will be able to define a UI. So here, this is the syntax. We need to define a default root which will handle all the user roots which are not defined within our single spa layout. So in case the user visits any other route other than the home and about, user will be redirected to this particular page. So here I am using a plain text value. Instead of this, you will be able to load a different application as well. Now let's try and run our application. So here I am removing the roots and I am just giving the default root. Now we need to go here. I'll comment out the JSON format and provide the HTML format. Now you can see that our 404 not found page is getting displayed. Now let's see how we can implement the same using the JSON format. So we need to basically repeat the same. Now here we need not give a path because we will be setting the default as true. Since we are actually providing a text content, we can provide the type as hash text and we can give the value here. Instead of name, we can give value. Now when we try to run our application, you can see that our JSON format is also working as expected. Another feature that is provided by the single spa layout is the UI loader, which we can make use when the application is getting loaded. So here we can add an attribute called loader, and you can provide a name. That's actually a name of a variable. So here I am giving it as custom loader. So I am defining the same for both our routes. Now the definition for this custom loader we need to provide in our app route config.js. So I have created an object here within which we have a key called loaders. We'll be able to define all the loaders which we need to make use in our application. So here, since I gave the name as custom loader, I have given the key custom loader, and here I have defined the value for that particular loader. So in this case, I have provided the HTML and CSS that is needed for rendering this particular loader. You can either do this or also make use of parcels so that you can create your own custom loaders. Now, once we have defined our loaders, we need to pass this data as a parameter to our routes, that is the construct routes utility. We can pass this as a second argument. Now, when we refresh our application, when we try to click on home, you can see that the loader was shown. Similarly, when we go to our about route, again the loader is shown. Now, let's explore how we can implement the same using the JSON format. When making use of the JSON format, we need not have a separate data object, but we can provide the same loader information within our application itself. So here we can add a key called loader, and we can pass the implementation of the loader here. So I am passing that both within the about application as well as the home application. Now when we refresh our applications, you can see that the loader came and went. Similarly, in the home route as well, it is getting shown. Now let's explore how we can pass props from our route configuration to our applications. Now, when we go to our home application, you can see that there is a input text box where we can enter the first name and another text box where we can enter the last name. Here, again, I am displaying some data here. We'll come to that in a moment. So if we need to pass a prop to our application, the single spa layout provides an option called props. Here we can provide an attribute called props, and we can again define a variable here. So here I am providing a variable called user, which I will be defining within my data. So again, the syntax is very much similar. In the data object, we need to create a key called props, and within that you can pass any kind of data. So here it's an object. Within that I am providing the name user, which I have given here. So the data which I need to pass to the home application is this. It consists of an object with a first name key and a last name key. Now, how will I be able to receive this data in the Angular application? So if we go to our home application, you can see a file called main.singlespa.ts. So if you look properly, there is a function called bootstrap function. Now within the bootstrap function, this code is automatically generated when we make use of the create singlespa CLI. There is a subject called singlespa prop subject that is available within this singlespa props.ts. So it consists of some internal props which I have displayed here earlier. So one key that is available within the props is the name of our application, and it also consists of some status of the application which we have loaded. So we will be able to add any other custom props which we need to pass to our application here. So in the type, what I have given is I have added this particular information that I might pass data of the format user and which consists of a first name and last name which are string. Now within our single spa main.ts, we are pushing this new data, that's the props, using the next method of the replace subject. Now what we can do is within our app component, we will be able to listen to this particular props subject. So here what I have done is instead of subscribing within the TS, I am making use of the async pipe, and whatever data which I am passing as props, I am basically binding it to the value of the text box. So here I am binding it to the first name, and the second we are binding it to the last name. Now once we have done this, I am displaying the same value in the JSON format so that we can see the value. Since we have defined the props as user and here I have provided the name, what happens is automatically those values are bound to our text boxes. Now in case I modify this, so here I am changing John to maybe Johnny and saving. Immediately you can see that the value gets reflected here within our Angular application as well as the displayed data. So this is the way in which we will be able to pass props in the HTML format. Now let's explore how we can do the same in the JSON format. In the JSON format, we can add the props data which we saw earlier as a key within our routes where we define the application for the form application. So here we can just add a key called props, and within that a key called user which we need to bind to our Angular application. So I have provided this and I am now consuming the same JSON configuration. Now you can see that our Angular application again, it is getting the data which we passed as props within our single spa layout. One final feature we will explore today is how we can show error UIs in case an error occurs within one of our application. In single spa layout, there is an attribute called error which we will be able to provide a particular variable or an implementation of that error screen. So here I am giving the name custom error for that, and here within my root configuration, initially I am adding a custom error variable which will consist of just a plain text which is showing that the application isn't working. And now we can add the metadata information for that within our data object. So this is the HTML format which I am speaking about. Here we can give the key errors, and within that you can provide the name of the error or the error screen and the particular implementation for that. Now once we have done this, what I have done is within our about application, I am forcefully throwing an error so that when we try to load the application, it will error out. Now I have built the application and I am refreshing it. So this is our home application. Now when I try to move to our about application, you can see that our error screen is getting displayed. This is because our application failed due to an error. So now let's see how we can implement the same using the JSON format. For implementing the same error screen within the JSON format, we need to go to our configuration, and in the application about, we can add this particular line of code that is having the key error and the value that's a custom error implementation of the screen. Now once we give this data and we need to comment out the HTML format and activate the JSON format. Once we have done that, let's refresh our application, and if we try to go to our about application, you can see that the error screen is displayed. Hope you are able to get a good understanding about the basic functionalities of the single spa layout. See you soon. Thank you.